This Sunday night, Vladimir Putin cruises to victory in Russia. Before the first vote was even cast, his win all but confirmed. The Kremlin so confident, not even apparent ballot box stuffing caught live on camera is expected to undermine Putin's rule. This as Moscow ratchets up tensions with the West. What Putin is saying now about the poisoning of a former Russian spy.
Also tonight, Facebook under fire after claims that 50 million profiles were exploited. The leaker speaks out in a Canadian exclusive. The National starts now.
Vladimir Putin has renewed his vice-like grip on power, seizing a fourth term as Russia's president. There was no meaningful opposition, and there were widespread accusations of ballot stuffing, but that didn't stop the celebrations outside the Kremlin, and that is where we find Chris Brown.
Well, this was an election evening with virtually no drama and no suspense. It unfolded practically as the Kremlin's playbook wanted it to. Vladimir Putin won convincingly. These people are on their way to Putin's victory party. We're just in the large square, not far from the Kremlin, with the Bolshoi Theater in the background. It comes after a day of voting where organizers pushed hard to get that vote out practically any way possible.
Vladimir Putin voted early today, as did the also-rans in Russia's election, such as Communist Party leader Pavel Grudinin and reality TV star Ksenia Sobchak. But opposition monitors say there was blatant evidence the fix was in for Putin. Many voting stations in Russia actually have live cameras that caught the apparent fraud. In this example from Moscow, and confirmed by the local election committee, a woman appears to stick ballot after ballot into the box. At another spot in Russia's Far East, a man appears to do the same thing. Social media was full of examples. Opposition leader Alexei Navalny, who's banned by the Kremlin from challenging Putin, posted what his staff said was a pile of legal ballots with Putin's name already ticked off. Someone found them in a garbage can. Election monitors tried to keep it a fair fight. One of them, who was watching voting in Dagestan, got punched in the face after he started filming inside the voting station.
Russia's Central Election Committee disagrees. It says it has no problem with the vote. It hasn't received any official complaints from any candidates. And certainly those here tonight aren't bothered about it either.
This woman told us she couldn't be happier with the outcome, that she would keep voting for Putin as long as he will go.
There was one surprising development after the polls closed, and it was live streamed on the internet. Alexei Navalny and Ksenia Sobchak, the two opposition candidates, attacked each other, with Navalny accusing Sobchak of accepting money from the Kremlin and trying to steal away his supporters. The whole exchange underscores just how divided Russia's opposition against Vladimir Putin is. Chris Brown, CBC News, Moscow.
It doesn't appear that tensions with the West hurt Putin. In fact, many analysts say it helped him, boosting his popularity. This vote falling in the middle of one of the worst diplomatic crises with the UK since the Cold War. This weekend, Russia expelled 23 British diplomats, a calibrated reprisal after the Brits gave 23 Russians a week to leave that country. All this over a poisoning in Salisbury that left an ex-Russian spy and his daughter in critical condition. British authorities say the substance used was part of the Novichok category, extremely potent nerve agents first engineered at this Soviet lab during the Cold War. Today, after his election win, Putin denied Russia had such weapons, called the accusations nonsense. A Russian diplomat on the BBC, meanwhile, pointed suspicion towards a British lab called Porton Down.
Porton Down, as we now all know, is the largest military facility in the United Kingdom that has been dealing with chemical weapons research. And it's actually only 8 miles from Salisbury.
You're not suggesting that Porton Down is responsible for this nerve agent?
I don't know.
The British Foreign Minister Boris Johnson responding, saying the trail leads inexorably to the Kremlin.
One of the things we can say today is that we do have information that within the last 10 years, Russia has been engaged, the Russian state has been engaged in investigating the delivery of such agents, Novichok agents, for the purposes, very likely for the purposes of assassination.
Johnson says Britain's National Security Council is meeting this week to consider next steps, meaning that likely this isn't over.
In the U.S., Donald Trump's latest Twitter tirade is raising new fears among both Democrats and Republicans. In today's tweets, the president slammed former FBI Director Andrew McCabe, fired Friday night, but also Robert Mueller, who heads up the Russia investigation, triggering alarm he could be on the chopping block too. But as Paul Hunter reports, even members of Trump's own party are warning, don't go there.
It's a question asked often in this country. Why in the world does Donald Trump seem so worried about an investigation Trump himself insists will find there's been no crime? Now even some Republicans wonder.
When you are innocent, if the allegation is collusion with the Russians and there is no evidence of that and you're innocent of that, act like it.
On Robert Mueller, who's investigating whether the Trump campaign colluded with Russia to meddle in the 2016 election, Trump this weekend tweeted, "The Mueller probe should never have been started in that there was no collusion and there was no crime." It's the first time Trump has mentioned Mueller by name in a tweet, coming after Trump's own lawyer called for an end to the probe. It's left some believing Trump wants Mueller fired. Consider again Republican reaction.
I think it's very important he be allowed to do his job without interference, and there are many Republicans who share my view.
I'm just puzzled by why the White House is going so hard at this, other than they're very afraid of what might come out.
If you've done nothing wrong, you should want the investigation to be as fulsome and thorough as possible.
This after Friday's firing of Andrew McCabe, the former deputy director of the FBI, also part of the Russia investigation. On word, McCabe has now sent investigators notes of his conversations with Trump, tweeted the president, "I don't believe he made memos except to help his own agenda. Can we call them fake memos?" McCabe's lawyer counter-tweeted, "We will not be responding to each childish, defamatory, disgusting, and false tweet by the president. The whole truth will come out in due course." Want more? A tweet this weekend by former CIA Director John Brennan called Trump venal, corrupt, and disgraceful. Tonight, a lawyer for Trump says there are no plans to fire Mueller, but the question remains, will that change? Historically, Trump's embraced firestorms, and right now, say even Republicans, a firestorm looms. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
While McCabe's firing and Trump's tweets triggered a swirling bonfire of speculation about firing Robert Mueller, the special counsel's investigation proceeds methodically, quietly, and with no sign of letting up. Last October, Mueller indicted Trump's former campaign manager, Paul Manafort, and Manafort's business partner on charges including conspiracy against the U.S. and money laundering. Mueller's team also revealed a campaign policy advisor pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI about Russian contacts. Then in December, former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI about his contact with the Russian ambassador. Last month, indictments dropped against Russian nationals that detailed an elaborate operation to influence the 2016 election through social media. And according to the New York Times, Mueller's team recently subpoenaed documents from Trump's business relating to Russia. Trump has said that digging into his finances would be a red line. There are multiple reports that Mueller is also looking into a data analysis firm known as Cambridge Analytica. Among the company's clients, the Trump campaign, the Brexit campaign in the UK. And right now, Cambridge Analytica is at the heart of a lot of controversy.
The more you know about someone, the more you can align a campaign with their requirements or their wants and needs.
And Cambridge Analytica apparently knows a great deal. They say they combine standard data mining techniques with personality modeling, so-called psychographics.
Then we add a unique extra layer of data about personality, decision-making, and motivation.
So where did they get that kind of deep-level insight into people's inner lives? According to Christopher Wiley, a Canadian whistleblower who left the firm in 2014, it came from Facebook. tens of millions of profiles. He claims almost all of them harvested without the owner's knowledge.
Our techniques are working across the globe, from local elections to the U.S. 2016 presidential race.
Conservative pro-Trump mega-donor Rebecca Mercer sits on Cambridge's board. Trump strategist Steve Bannon was also a board member. Facebook data may have helped Trump win the White House. Cambridge Analytica denies it's misused that data. Facebook says it's suspending the company and is conducting a review, but it only informed the public about this on Friday as Wiley came forward with his story. In a Canadian exclusive, I spoke with Wiley earlier today. Chris, this all sounds pretty complicated. How did it actually work?
What we did is we used applications that people would join. They would fill out psychological surveys, and then that app would then go and pull all of their Facebook data and relate how they answered the questions on the survey to their Facebook data. And from that, we were able to then make inferences or predictions about people who we haven't yet spoken to, but we have pulled their Facebook data. So it allowed us to profile upwards of 50 million Americans over the span of a couple months and understand not only their personality traits, but how they think and how they would likely react to different kinds of information. And what is it exactly that we need to do in order to pick at certain mental or emotional vulnerabilities so that those people would behave in a particular way that was conducive to Steve Bannon's objective.
But you've known some of this for a long time. Why come forward now?
The difference for me is having watched 2016 roll out with Donald Trump's election and then, all of the rise of the alt-right. It really made me reflect on the impact that Cambridge Analytica has had, not just on the American political scene, but also around the world. And so I think that, I reflected on it, and I think, I said to myself, I need to speak out now because I've seen the impact that this company has had, and I think people should know about how it works.
Are you afraid in any way right now?
Speaking out against, one of the most powerful Republican billionaires, Robert Mercer, and Steve Bannon, and frankly the entire alt-right, is intimidating. Speaking out against social media giants like Facebook is intimidating, particularly when they retaliate. When I come forward as a whistleblower, that's intimidating. But I think that it's important for people to know what this company does, its impact on American elections and elections around the world, and also more broadly, to hold social media companies like Facebook to account. I am accepting my share of responsibility in what happened with Cambridge Analytica, and I think that Facebook should also accept some share of responsibility as to what happened.
Chris, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And we should say, Ian, we haven't independently verified his claims. We are staying on the story, though. But first, let's have a look at that agonizing search of that little boy in Quebec.
A search that is almost a week old now, and for the family of 10-year-old Ariel Kaku, the agony of not knowing where he is has been complicated by the lack of any credible lead as to why he is still missing. There have been days of exhaustive searches for the Montreal boy and pleas from his devastated family. But as Simon Nakaneshny tells us, today support arrived from an unexpected source.
The big black Bentley stood out against the modest houses on this quiet residential street. A superstar, nicknamed Superman, had come to let Ariel Kaku's family know he was in their corner.
I have a kid, I have a 4 kid, and I understand the hurt and the pain, the pain.
Boxing champ Adonis Stevenson and his girlfriend pledged $15,000 for information leading to Ariel's whereabouts. It was a moving gesture for a desperate family.
We are destroyed. We are broken. You cannot imagine how painful our nights. but we have hope.
Police and volunteers continued to knock on doors in the North End Montreal neighborhood where Ariel was last seen.
He's a kid. He's 10 years old. You know, he has no defense. He's alone. How can you just not do anything?
This park may have been the last place that Ariel Kaku was spotted. A woman told police she spoke with the boy here on Monday afternoon. It's just a short walk away from Kaku's house and the nearby river.
Now we have the SWAT team who's looking at the river, also to be able to make some dive probably in the next day.
Police say they aren't favoring one explanation over another in the boy's disappearance, but his parents are convinced he was abducted. They point to security camera footage that shows Ariel turning to look back. They say it looks like he was being followed. As terrible as that theory may be, it offers his loved ones some hope that Ariel may still be alive. Simon Akineshny, CBC News, Montreal.
Ahead tonight on The National, a warning tonight from a family hit with a surprise legal fee after they complained about their lawyer. We'll have that go public investigation.
And with 3 gold medals in Pyeongchang and 13 in his career, Brian McKeever is now Canada's most decorated Paralympian. I'll talk to the cross-country skier about inspiring a new generation.
And a little later, we've talked a lot about supervised injection sites in this country. Now Canada has its very first supervised inhalation site. We'll take you inside and hear why staff say it's such an important resource.
We've lost lots of clients in the last year. It's been really, really hard. These are people that are in your facility every day.
On The National tonight, an acrobat with Cirque du Soleil has died after falling during a performance in Tampa, Florida. 38-year-old Yann Arnault plunged to the stage during an aerial act last night. Cirque du Soleil says it's working with authorities to try to figure out what went wrong. And Toronto police are investigating after 2 people, including a bystander, were shot to death at a bowling alley last night in the city's North End. Detectives say a young man was targeted and chased to the front of the building by 2 armed men, where he was killed. The other victim, a young woman who died later of gunshot wounds, was not connected to the intended target. Witnesses describe the incident as chaotic.
They were screaming, like pushing each other. Chairs were being like tossed down on the floor.
Somebody's got a gun, just run, duck and cover, that's what they were saying, and then everybody just runs to the back.
Yeah, the panic kind of started, and then people, had like a kind of herd mentality to get out of there.
Toronto police are now looking for 3 people who escaped in a dark car. The mayor, John Tory, calling on Ottawa for help in controlling the flow of guns into the city. 3 people have now been shot to death in Toronto in 1 week.
An Ontario family is going public tonight with a story about the cost of complaining. When they hired a lawyer, they knew full well that regular legal fees can be expensive, but they never expected those costs to jump after they filed a complaint about their lawyer. Our Rosa Marcatelli looked into what happened.
When Brittany Beckler's dad died of cancer, her family hired a lawyer to settle his estate. They weren't happy with how the lawyer was handling things, so Beckler's mom submitted a complaint with the Law Society of Ontario.
We thought it might be a good idea to just have that assessed and get like an unbiased opinion of whether our lawyer was behaving appropriately or not.
The Law Society found no wrongdoing on the lawyer's part and closed the file. Beckler says the family was willing to accept that and move on. But when the time came to close the estate, the lawyer took an extra $2,300 for the time he spent responding to the Law Society about the complaint.
I had thought, too, what would have happened if we had closed the estate before that, or if there wasn't money there? Would he have sent us a bill in the mail asking for that money? It was just that he had that money in his possession and took the money.
Lawyers are not allowed to bill for hours spent responding to complaints, according to the Law Society of Ontario. But the organization doesn't have the power to do anything about it. The lawyer in this case tells GoPublic the complaint was unfounded and devoid of merit, and maintains the response to the complaint was a necessary part of handling the file, adding the time spent doing so was an appropriate charge to the client in the circumstances.
Should lawyers be billing for hours spent responding to a complaint?
No, they absolutely should not be.
Alice Woolley is an expert in legal ethics.
Responding to a Law Society complaint is a matter between the lawyer and the regulator, and even if the client initiated the complaint, it's still not a service rendered for the client, and you cannot properly bill them for it.
And do you feel like, does the merit of the complaint come into play here at all when it comes to billing for those hours?
No.
The Beckler family says they contacted GoPublic to warn others what can happen. After learning of the extra fee, they went back to the Law Society to ask for help. And that's when they discovered fee disputes aren't something it deals with. Instead, legal bills are reviewed by an assessment office through the court system. But by that time, the family had missed the 30-day deadline. Rosa Marcatelli, CBC News, Calgary.
If you have a problem you want our GoPublic team to look into, just send an email to gopublic@cbc.ca.
We have a lot more ahead tonight on The National. He is now this country's most decorated Paralympian. And Brian McKeever has some interesting things to say about what the Games mean to Canadians. That's our Sunday interview.
And we're also remembering one of Canada's greatest comedians. Mike MacDonald was a regular face at Just for Laughs. Tonight, his friends and family pay tribute and share their favorite memories.
Half an inch of snow anywhere in the South, boy, they flip out. It's like, what the hell is it? It's coming from everywhere.
He was one of the first superstars of Canadian stand-up comedy.
Canadian skier Mark Horan is flying the Maple Leaf at the closing ceremony of the Paralympics in Pyeongchang. He won a gold, 2 silver, and 3 bronze to become the first Canadian to win 6 Paralympic medals at a single Winter Games. And with that, Team Canada marked the end of this country's most successful Paralympics ever. The team finishing second overall with 28 medals, 8 gold, 4 silver, and 16 bronze, exceeding Canada's previous record of 19 medals set in Vancouver in 2010. Most of those medals coming in ski events.
3.54 seconds. Jepson guarantees herself a medal.
Alpine skier Molly Jepson won gold in the super combined standing event. These were her first games, but you wouldn't know it. The 18-year-old from BC also capturing a silver and 2 bronze.
Quite brilliant ski there.
Then there was Mac Marcoux, led by his guy, Jack Leach.
Gold medal athlete from Canada.
And Calgary's Kurt Otway, both standing atop the podium for Canada. But it was the biathletes and cross-country skiers who won the most hardware, 16 medals in all.
And Paralympic champion, Natalie Wilkie!
Thanks to athletes like 17-year-old Natalie Wilkie. She picked up 3 medals, including a gold in her Paralympic debut. And then there is Brian McKeever. The legendary skier swept all 3 of his cross-country events. This was McKeever's 5th Olympics. We'll hear from him in just a moment, but first, some background. Canmore, Alberta's Brian McKeever is a Paralympic legend.
Welcome to Canmore.
Coming into Pyeongchang with an already impressive 13 medals.
He looks around. Yep, done it again. He is Mr. Cool on skis.
McKeever is a visually impaired cross-country skier.
Somebody shines a bright light at you, and then you get that fuzzy blob in the middle. That's kind of what I get the whole time.
Canada! Canada!
McKeever carried Canada's flag at Pyeongchang's opening ceremony. He led 54 other teammates into the stadium, the largest contingent Canada has ever sent to a Paralympics. It was a well-deserved honor for a well-decorated athlete.
They cover every single discipline here.
And McKeever through the middle of them.
Once the games began, McKeever again exceeded expectations.
A trip to the finish line for the Canadian duo.
Dominating his sport, winning gold medal after gold medal, and in the process, became Canada's most decorated Winter Paralympian of all time. Brian, we know you've been very successful for a long time, including at these Paralympic Games. Your success shows, of course, you're very talented, you're very fit. But in terms of your disability, describe for us how it creates a challenge for you.
Well, my disability is that I have a loss of central vision, and it was a genetic thing in my family. My dad has it and my aunt has it, and it's a dominant gene, so there's a 50-50 chance of passing it on. And I won that lottery, so at about 18 I started losing my eyesight. And so for me, with a blind spot in the middle, whatever I look at disappears. So I'm using my peripheral vision to compensate for that. And so that means I have to kind of look around constantly to make sure that I'm not missing things. But even so, at high speeds, things approach really quickly. And if I have them caught in my blind spot, like let's say there's an athlete that's crashed in front of us, I might not see it until it's too late. And so that's where the guides come in our category to help me get around those obstacles. So the big challenge for us is finding guides that are fast enough to stay ahead for an entire race.
I'm a little sensitive about asking this question because there you are at the top of your game, but you have been an athlete for a long, long time, and inevitably that means there comes a time when you have to step away from elite competition. You must have thought about that, and what do you think life is going to be like for you when you no longer can compete in the Paralympics?
Well, I think I'm starting to trend in that direction, and that's a normal thing. I'm not done yet, but I've been saying that for the first time ever, I can't necessarily commit to 4 full years to the next games. And it's not that I don't want to, but it's that my body's starting to break down. There's more injuries that creep in. The recovery's not there like it was when I was in my 20s. And so if I'm going to continue, it's going to have to be a different program. I'm going to have to scale it back and find that balance of where health and performance kind of are at their optimum. But certainly, I've looked forward a little bit to what might come afterwards. I like working with other athletes. I like especially helping them out and giving them some advice, especially on the technique end of things. Over my career, I've been fortunate to work with great technical coaches, and I think I've picked up on a lot of their advices, and being able to pass that on to the young guys is important to me. And they're the future of our program too, and it's going to be important to get them up so that we've got more leaders in the future to then pass that on to the next generation as well, once I'm long gone.
Do you hear from Canadians with disabilities? Do you sort of feel like there's a special connection there?
I do, and I think there is that connection. And it's interesting because at my first Paralympics, I didn't understand, I suppose, the impact of the games, or even on me as a person. And when I started out, I didn't see myself as having a disability. And that still holds true today. I don't necessarily see any of the athletes here as having any real disabilities. I mean, there's an obvious thing. Somebody missing a leg, it's pretty easy to see that. But, disability is just kind of a word, right? And what does that really mean? Yeah, we've got some limitations, but it doesn't make anybody any less of a person or any less able to accomplish what they want. But that first games was interesting because a good friend of mine from Germany, his a thalidomide baby, was born without arms, and he'd won the first biathlon, I'd won the first cross country, and he was jumping up and down and saying how impressed he was that I could do what I was doing on the ski course. And here I am thinking, well, here's a guy with no arms that thinks that my life is harder than his. It's a matter of perspective, and people have gone through such serious issues over their lives that, accidents and crazy things. The stories that you hear from the Paralympians of how they've ended up where they are, a lot of times you have to laugh, because if you didn't laugh, you'd cry.
For the people watching here in Canada, what's the message to them from South Korea?
The Paralympic Games is the end of a 4-year cycle and the beginning of another 4-year cycle. And this is the big goal, and this is what everybody has trained for. And so it ends up being a very emotional experience for most of the athletes that are here, and that they're just trying to showcase what they've done in 4 years and then look ahead for the next 4. So it's big chunks of time, big commitment, and these athletes are training at the exact same levels as their Olympic counterparts. And the only difference is there's a physical limitation here or there, but the level of athleticism here is the same.
Well, you were chosen, as we said at the beginning, to carry the flag in to represent Canada, and as a sign of your leadership, and we certainly see that leadership here tonight. Brian, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me on the show, and thanks for supporting the Paralympic Games.
Ahead tonight on The National, we'll take you to one of the driest places on earth, the Middle East. You'll see how people there are being forced to put politics aside in the face of a major water crisis.
This will start to build trust among parties, which we need. Part of the problem in the Middle East that we don't trust each other.
In simple human terms, there's no commodity more valuable than fresh water. A grim truth for millions who don't have access to it. Tonight on The National, we conclude our special series on water in one of the driest places on earth, where a shared crisis is turning old rivals sort of into partners. When it comes to water, Israelis, Jordanians, and the Palestinians are all facing the same dilemma. High demand, low supply. But as Derek Stoffel discovered, goodwill, technology, and trust could go a long way towards building water security.
They come from around the world to immerse themselves in the waters of the Jordan River. This is where Christians believe Jesus was baptized. Along with the nearby Dead Sea, water is part of the history. It's symbolic here in the Holy Land. But there are looming concerns of a region-wide water crisis, particularly in Jordan, one of the driest countries on the planet. And climate change could make it worse, with fears that rainfall could drop by a third by the start of the next century. Right now, Jordan's water reservoirs are only 60% full, and the reserves will drop as temperatures soar in the summertime. The influx of more than 1 million refugees from Syria has also constricted supply. The situation's so serious that this mosque has cut off the taps. Water is flowing into this residential tank in the capital, Amman, but for only about 12 hours a week. The restrictions from the Water Authority mean Jordanians have to scramble to make sure their own reservoirs are filled. It's why you see tanks dotting rooftops across the country. Residents have to make sure enough is stored up to keep the taps running for an entire week. It means watering the garden sparingly for this family.
We need to be the ones who start fighting this because the water problem isn't going to get any better.
Jordan's government is working to bring what it calls water security. This is the Water Ministry's high-tech control room, where these workers keep watch around the clock to thwart water theft, a growing problem in Jordan. They also keep an eye on the Jordan Valley and water levels in both the Dead Sea and Red Sea, which are at the center of an ambitious water project. Jordan would tap the Red Sea and desalinate the water for use in communities in the south and across the border in Israel. Part of the project will see water that can't be fully desalinated brought here to the Dead Sea, where water levels are falling at an alarming rate. The plan also includes Israel selling water for use in northern Jordan and in Palestinian communities as well. Israel is now a world leader in desalination of seawater, which has turned much of its deserts green. The Red Sea, Dead Sea plan is supported by this leading Middle East water expert.
This will start to build trust among parties, which we need. Part of the problem in the Middle East that we don't trust each other because of the conflict over so many years. So by having some projects that will show the layman or woman that there are benefits of talking to each other.
Making fresh water from the sea is very energy intensive, so an environmental group in Jordan and Israel is floating a new proposal to harness the solar energy in Jordan's deserts and sell the electricity to run Israeli and Palestinian desalination plants. A water energy exchange with consequences that could ripple right across the Middle East.
We need to confront the poverty and the violence of this region. And if we can stabilize and bring prosperity through water and renewable energy as two critical natural resources, then we have a vision for how to fight terrorism, how to fight ideologies that are currently thriving.
The water situation in the Gaza Strip is dire. Many families can't afford running water, and what comes from the pipes is often tainted. Most of the water is drawn from the Mediterranean Sea, but that's also where Gaza's wastewater is dumped. The United Nations warns of a humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza, adding to the worries across the Middle East that the region is on the crest of a water crisis. Derek Stoffel, CBC News, Amman.
British Columbia is often described as ground zero in the fentanyl crisis, and tonight we want to have a look at the deadly impact next door in Alberta. Last year, nearly 700 people in the province died from opioid overdoses. And let's focus on the city of Lethbridge. During a one-week period last month, emergency workers responded to 54 overdoses. Those overdoses can be reversed if someone administers a drug called naloxone, and that's why supervised injection sites can save lives. But what about people who smoke drugs? Now a new facility in Lethbridge is addressing that. Carolyn Dunn got exclusive access to North America's first official inhalation site.
The first rule of the new safe consumption site is that there are rules.
Yeah, so then I gotta say, like, no sharing of your equipment, right? You have to have all your own stuff.
In return, Jeff Martins and his friend Albert Paul can use their drug of choice in a non-judgmental, safe environment.
I would like some glassware, please.
For these two men, that drug is meth. Safe consumption sites have been around for a long time, but this is the first time Health Canada has approved safe inhalation rooms where they can smoke. Paul says he smokes meth a few times a week.
It is a huge uplifting for me to see and visit this place because it's a safe place for me. I can come here anytime now. I don't have to sneak around the corner.
For Jeff, whose 3-decade addiction began with crack cocaine before switching to meth a couple of years ago, this is a long way from the alternative.
There's been lots of times where, okay, where can we go? And, it's like in bathroom stall here or over there or someplace out of the wind. And yes, we're out in the public's eye.
So you can hear the ventilation in here. It's quite loud.
Stacey Bork is the executive director of a local harm reduction agency. She was a driving force behind the Health Canada application for a safe consumption site. Now they have 6 booths for injecting or snorting drugs and taking pills, as well as those first 2 inhalation rooms approved in this country.
In the case of a medical emergency in one of these 2 rooms, if staff do have to enter, they would just trigger the emergency system. Okay. It takes a few seconds for the damper to close, but once it closes, this kicks off, and all of a sudden it's focused on these 2 rooms, and so it turns that air over in about 10 seconds.
There's a nurse on duty at all times, and staff are trained to reverse an overdose, the first of which happened on the 3rd day this site was opened. Saving that user's life underscores the real motivation for this site.
Have you lost clients?
Lots.
Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, I mean, we've lost so lots of clients in the last year. It's been really, really hard. These are people that are in your facility every day, engaging, building relationships with your staff and with you. And then you come in the next day and they're just not there anymore.
Have you heard that our site is open today?
Cherie Schlott leads an outreach team that has seen the evolution of a fentanyl crisis take over the past few years in this small city of 98,000.
Do you think your clients are aware of that risk?
To an extent, yes. I think so, but I think there's a lot of misinformation about the type of drugs they're getting and the fact that they're not factory produced. And I think at that point they're so dope sick and they're so physiologically dependent on the drug that it doesn't even matter. Yeah.
They'll take the risk to get the drugs.
Yeah, 100% every time.
Critics say this place is enabling addicts, but Stacey Bork rejects that.
I said before, the only thing that we're enabling here is breathing. There's, you can't enable people to do something that they're already doing. Instead, we could support people where they're at until they're ready to make changes. Because at least if we keep people alive, they get to make that decision another day. And that's why we're here.
Albert Paul has his own reasons for being here.
Everybody that has caught us smoking behind the corner, or in the bathroom stall, or whatever. They label us because they think that we're lesser of them, and we're not really lesser.
So really, this is about having a dignified place instead of...
Dignified, that is a good word. Yes. Yeah, I swear, walking through that door, well, it gave me dignity again.
And the safest place possible to get high. Carolyn Dunn, CBC News, Lethbridge, Alberta.
When we come back, we'll look at the life and the legacy of veteran Canadian comic. Mike McDonald's family and friends will share their memories. But first, a peek at a story we'll have tomorrow night. Donald Trump wants to train and arm teachers in the wake of the Parkland school shooting. It's a controversial and divisive idea, to say the least. So we sent Nick Purdon to Arlington, Texas, where he spoke to a group of teachers as they train to carry in the classroom. Take a look.
Go, go, go!
Get over in the corner. Over in the corner. Get down, get over in the corner. Get chairs in front of you.
You ever been that stressed?
No.
How's your heart rate?
Oh, it's really high. My hands are shaking, my heart's pounding. My voice is shaking, I can feel it.
He is selfless and he is heroic, and he is somebody who deserves to be released with all deliberate speed.
That is former Canadian Justice Minister Irwin Cotler speaking about imprisoned Saudi writer and activist Raif Badawi. Cotler is trying to free Badawi from a Saudi prison where he's being held on charges of insulting Islam and to reunite him with his family in Canada. Could the new Saudi Crown Prince's upcoming visit with U.S. President Donald Trump be the key? Adrian takes a closer look at this story Tuesday on The National.
If you can protect guns this much and don't have the same regard for the people who are going to create your country in the future, then we're in trouble.
Another story coming up this week. Expect to see more scenes like this across the U.S. Students and their families will converge on Washington, D.C. this coming Saturday for the March of Our Lives event, demanding action on gun control a month and a half after the deadly mass shooting in Parkland, Florida. And Vancouver celebrates Juno Week ahead of the Juno Awards broadcast. That'll be right here on CBC next Sunday with host Michael Bublé. Our special news coverage begins this Friday with an in-depth look at the best in Canadian music and comedy, which returns to the Junos for the first time in 33 years.
But there is some sad news to report from Canada's comedy world tonight with the death of veteran comic Mike McDonald, a fiercely proud Canadian. McDonald did well on both sides of the border, but always preferred working at home.
I caught my wife, though, complaining about how cold it was last month. She said, it's so cold, it's still cold. And I had to remind her, I said, honey, you know, I have to remember, as Canadians, we should never complain about how cold it gets, because that's one of the reasons why we have such a low crime rate, right? Hey, let's go rob a bank. Maybe later. It's cold. A June bank robbery, that sounds good.
McDonald had struggled for years with health issues and personal demons, but always with that sense of humor. He died suddenly yesterday of heart complications at the age of 62. Our Salima Shivji takes a closer look at McDonald's career and how he's being remembered.
That's why they call it comedy.
He was called the King of Canadian Comedy, a title he enjoyed using for a laugh.
I'm the King of Canadian Comedy.
Mike McDonald ruled the stage, one of Canada's first stand-up superstars. He took on edgy, serious issues with his slapstick style.
What am I going to have to learn to do differently today?
A constant at Montreal's Just for Laughs festival year after year.
Because I want to get it right.
keen on honing his craft even in the early days of his career.
Like a Bob Hope or George Burns, when I'm old, I'm still telling jokes. It's just a lifetime.
McDonald, who himself grew up in a military family, did his best to entertain the troops. He was always open about his struggle with addiction and bipolar disorder. The recovery after a liver transplant was so tough, McDonald even forgot his own jokes and worried he'd never get back on stage. He eventually did.
American audiences are always like, make me laugh. Canadians, you're just happy we showed up.
Before heart complications took him yesterday, much too early.
It is helpful for me personally to see all the kind words that have been posted about my brother, and he would have been pretty happy about that.
As tributes flooded social media, many who followed in McDonald's footsteps called him a true inspiration.
I remember that. I remember that feeling being a teenager in the back of the comedy club, and he would walk in the room, and there was just this presence. He would walk in the room, there was just this presence about him. It was this sort of aura about him that was incredible.
Brendan Mertens is also reeling from the loss of the man he calls his comedy dad. He spent months working on The Mic Stand, a documentary about McDonald.
And I think Mike's evergreen material is so universal that that's why he's going to be sticking around, even after he's gone.
A Canadian comedic legend, gone at 62. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Toronto.
And that's a national for March 18th. Good night.
Good night.